Time to talk some tennis, and Novak Djokovic has tied with Germany's Steffi Graf for the most weeks at number 1, 377. Djokovic is currently on 7,070 points and is on the verge of taking over from Graf when the new rankings are released on February 27. The Serb equaled Rafael Nadal's record for the most men's singles Grand Slams, winning the Australian Open last month to move his tally to 22. So, Lance, Ricardo, there are some people who believe the Serbian is underrated. How would you respond to them? Lance?
Underrated.
Like he'll never be loved like Rafa and Federer.
Underrated. I don't think he's underrated in the sense that people who follow the sport recognize how good he is, because there's no question about how good he is and how efficient a player he is. Before I continue, though, I'm eager to hear Rafa Nadal's biggest fan on this story.
No, I wanted to hear what you would say first, actually, Lance.
Yes.
And
shall I continue then?
I was at the goal.
Yes.
To just hammer some forehands at you, but I think you're spot on. Yes. I don't think Novak Djokovic is underrated.
Yes.
Not in terms of his tennis ability. I think there is generally a belief that Novak Djokovic is the best all-round player to ever play the game of tennis. That's number one.
From an efficiency standpoint.
From an efficiency standpoint. He's always in the conversation about the greatest player of all time. I think everyone agrees that he is one of the greatest.
Let's be clear, though, Chapo. Are you making this
Chapo,
comment?
We don't use that name on air, Lance.
It's what we call you in the zone room, so I will say it again. I'll repeat: Chapo, Ricardo, Kimar Chambers.
Yes.
Are you talking from a perspective, when you say everyone recognizes, because I thought I qualified what I said, people in the sport and understand the sport, but I'm not sure if what you're saying reflects how the average fan feels about Novak Djokovic's quality.
Needs to go.
But what I will say, right, there's a difference for me between speaking about whether a player is underrated as opposed to speaking about if he is loved. Now, do I think across the sport that Novak Djokovic is as loved as Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal? No. But even the individuals who don't like him as much or who don't love him as much still, for the most part, agree that he is probably the best all-round player to have played the sport. They agree that he belongs in the GOAT debate. Many even still believe he will end up with the most Grand Slam titles. But that has not matriculated into people embracing him in the way that they have done Federer and Nadal.
I want to stop you there, though, Ricardo, because you're saying quite confidently just now that people accept, or many people accept, that he's the best all-round player to have ever lived.
Yes.
I don't think I hear that narrative. I don't think I hear people saying that.
Please do tell what you hear.
I hear that he's in the conversation based on his statistics
but
and his Grand Slam success.
Yes.
But to say that he is the best all-round player, as a tennis expert yourself, I will understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that I don't think I've heard that narrative generally when people talk.
Unless there is any misunderstanding, right?
Yes.
Let me explain what I mean by best all-round player.
Yes.
In terms of his ability to go across surfaces. So we know that there's debate that Rafael Nadal is the king of clay. Roger Federer is the king of grass. When you had Pete Sampras at the top of his game, he was the king of grass. What you have in Novak Djokovic is a player who is efficient, who is really good, who is excellent on every single surface. He's great at the Australian Open, where he's won 10 titles. He's very good at the French Open, where he's won it twice. He's the only person who has won it twice in an era where Rafael Nadal has utterly dominated. He's been excellent at Wimbledon. He's been great at the US Open. So the conversation is, if you had to choose one player who would perform for you and you don't know which surface it is going to be, who would that player be? And as much as I am not a Novak Djokovic fan,
So
I can understand the individuals who say that that person would be Novak Djokovic.
So, Ricardo, does that make him the GOAT? Because, you know, that's a discussion that always comes up in sport.
It makes him an extremely strong contender for the GOAT. And I will say this, I don't think I've ever said this publicly before, and the Roger Federer fans will not like this, but I don't think there is enough evidence that Roger Federer is the GOAT. I think in the GOAT debate in tennis, it's down to Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the, I know you want to come in, but one of the points that, you know, while I was researching for this segment was the timing that Djokovic came onto the scene. You know, they quoted around the 2000s. And by that time, people, tennis-loving fans, had already decided, I love Federer, I love Rafa Nadal, which is why he was always seen as a third one. And worse yet, he was competing against their favorites. It comes as if I chose you. And Ricardo comes on now and is beating you up. Of course, I have a problem with him.
Yes.
So that's one of the narrative.
Yeah, that is one. The other issue, I think, with Novak Djokovic, why he hasn't garnered the love that a Roger Federer and a Rafael Nadal would, is that there are a lot of individuals, I think, who believe that he has a lot of gamesmanship on the court. So I'll always remember this incident when he just came onto the scene and he played Andy Roddick. I think it was in the quarterfinals of the US Open. If I remember correctly, I think Andy Roddick won that match. And at the end of the match, because Djokovic was going on with all sorts of antics in the match, and at the end of it, in the press conference, Andy Roddick was asked about it. And if you know Andy Roddick, he doesn't hold much back. So Andy Roddick went, well, there's always something wrong with him. He has this injury and that injury and this disease. Next thing he's going to have SARS. And I'll never forget that interview because it was the general thinking about Novak Djokovic. And I think even to this day, sometimes, you know, when Rafael Nadal says he is injured or he was injured, that people generally believe right off the bat. I don't get the impression it's the same thing with Novak Djokovic. Look at him during the Australian Open, where he was hurt midway the tournament, went on to win. And I think a lot of people did not believe that he was actually hurt.
Gamesmanship.
A lot of people believe that a lot of it is gamesmanship. And I just think not enough people have warmed to his personality in the way they have to Federer. And because Nadal came before, as you said, a lot of people warmed to Nadal early as well. So it was either Nadal or Federer, and then Djokovic came.
Two things. I think Moran made a great point when she said that he came in the midst of people warming to Rafa Nadal and Federer, who without question are among the greatest players of all time.
Yes.
So people had already soaked up their energies towards these two players.
Yeah.
There was a period when the criteria for selecting like a horse of the year, one of the categories or one of the tenets used would have been the horse that captures the imagination of the fans.
Yes.
I say that to say this, that there are some players that are as efficient as you like, as productive as you like, but they may not capture the imagination of the fans in the same way that another player does. And I think Novak isn't the player that captures the imagination of the fans. If you go to cricket, Shivnarine Chanderpaul has a better test batting average than IVA Richards. His batting average, Shiv Chanderpaul, is 51.37, I think. Viv's batting average is 50.2. No one will suggest that they would rank Shivnarine Chanderpaul over IVA Richards.
Right.
Even though statistically, Shiv Chanderpaul has produced at a level that puts him in the conversation. But it's a no-brainer for most West Indies cricket fans, most world cricket fans, that IVA Richards is IVA Richards. Because he was able to capture the imagination of the cricket fans worldwide, not just in the West Indies. People speak, you know, very, very highly and respectfully of IVA Richards, no matter where in the world you go that cricket is played. And I think that is part of the issue that has Novak a little below where his statistics probably suggest he would.
I see you're making a case for Roger Federer, because that's right now the main case for Roger Federer. He captured the imagination. Nobody plays the game
Like he does.
Like he does.
Style,
he looks
flair.
better
Yeah.
playing it, the style, the flair. And I accept that that should always be part of the consideration.
Yes.
But when you have Nadal and Djokovic leading in almost every other category, Grand Slam titles won, Masters won, head to head.
Am I hear you suggest, because you already stepped on the toe of some Federer fans in an earlier comment 3 or 4 minutes ago, Ricardo.
Yeah.
Are you suggesting that Roger Federer is number 3?
That's what
Suggesting,
he's
I said it,
saying
Lance. I said it 3 or 4 minutes ago. I didn't suggest it.
I'm not sure you said it
I
clearly.
disagree though. But team, we're out of time.
Of course, a lot of people will disagree. I expect a lot of people to disagree.
And we'll see what our viewers have to say. Let's take a break and come back. Interactive is up next.
Come for me. We'll
Come. Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news, and entertainment.